It's been a long 18 months since it was first unveiled in a darkened room, but now, rising like a sun, resplendent in ember orange, it's here, in southern Spain. The new, hybrid McLaren Artura.
We keep playing with fire. Knowing it's a dangerous
game. The addition of an electric motor potentially adds more performance and greater versatility, but will the end result feel like it's been worth the wait? Slinking through town almost unnoticed, partly because we're obviously in E mode and therefore silent, partly also because probably people think this is, well, any other McLaren, because it does look very, very similar. Good, but very similar, which I think is a bit of a shame, because there is obviously an awful lot about this new Artura that is new. There is obviously the brand new turbocharged V6 engine, which is combined with a new axial flux electric motor that sits within the housing of the new 8-speed dual clutch gearbox. There is also a new pound-for-pound lighter carbon tub, dubbed MCLA, and a new cabin layout inside. So a lot of it really is new. By default, the Artura starts with its powertrain in E mode, and with a full 7.4 kWh battery, it can cover up to 19 miles on electric power alone. As I've said before, with supercars, with hybrid modes, I really do quite like it because, well, perhaps I'm not the average supercar customer, but I like the fact that you can go pretty much unnoticed. I like the idea of zero emissions in this sort of environment, and well, McLaren seems to work pretty well. You obviously get a distinctive whine from the electric, and then as you come out of town, well, you could stick just in E mode because it will do up to about 80 miles an hour on e-power only. However, this is not a performance BEV electric only vehicle because, well, that's it. That's your lot. You really want to press this up here, put it into either comfort, which will wake the engine up, or even sport. Now it's alive. I know that there's an awful lot that's new about this car, but really it does feel very familiar in here, like an updated 570S, and a lot of that's a very good thing, because we've still got the ride quality that's very recognisable as McLaren. We've got this fantastic hydraulically power assisted steering, which is just some of, if not the best in the business. Long straight. It really picks up and goes. 8,500 RPM. It's not shy of revs. The M630 engine is a 3-litre twin-turbo V6 which can deliver 577 brake horsepower and 431 pounds-foot of torque, giving total outputs for the powertrain of 671 brake horsepower and 531 pounds-foot. The V6 is said to be 50 kilos lighter than the old V8, and it has an angle of 120 degrees to help keep weight as low as possible. It does get hot in there though, hence the need for the chimney in the middle of the rear deck. 900 degrees the air is in the engine, apparently cooled to 240 by the time it gets out the top. That engine does sound sort of perhaps a little bit different, but still kind of not that different to the V8 actually. One of the things I think you can notice definitely is the new e-diff, because it just feels more playful now with the addition of the extra instant torque and throttle response from the hybrid system. It means this does feel, certainly on the sort of the tighter corners, just a car that is easier to play with. McLarens, I think, have always been actually really fun over the limit. It perhaps feels a little more stable, so it goes into slides more easily and then maintains them more smoothly. I do also think you notice the extra weight. So this is 1495 kilos DIN curb weight. It's not sort of, doesn't feel like an elephant now, but just compared to a 570, it's just a little more weight in. It's almost the way it sits on the road that gives the extra weight away. In terms of the performance, McLarens have never been short of that, and this certainly isn't. It really does like to rev as well. Something else that's just taken a bit of time to get used to is actually this new instrument binnacle that moves with the steering column. I like the general idea of that. Obviously we had that in Nissan GTR in the past, but this sits very close behind the wheel, which is just slightly odd, so it almost feels like you always want to bring the wheel further out, just I think because that's what you're more accustomed to with cars. You feel like it should be further away. At first I felt like perhaps it was taking sort of longer to sort of refocus because it's closer to you as well, but I seem to have got used to it fairly quickly. There is also a new 8-inch touchscreen for the infotainment and HVAC, which now supports Apple CarPlay and will soon be compatible with Android Auto. I like the new home button and volume control on the side, but I'm not a fan, if you'll pardon the pun, of having the heating and ventilation controls on a touchscreen. One of the other obvious changes with this, because it's a major contact point, these seats. So these are the standard seats. They're in fact the sport seats, but they are the standard seats. And they're quite interesting. I have to say, ingress and egress from this Artura is not as good as I remember actually from other McLarens. It's just a little bit awkward. I mean, getting in and out of a mid-engine supercar is not always graceful anyway, but yeah, I just feel like the aperture has somehow shrunk a little bit. But the actual seats, once you're in them, are really nice. They certainly feel comfortable, and although they're fixed back, they have this sort of rocking motion that you can sort of sit yourself slightly more upright or lay back. It's quite interesting. The brakes obviously aren't having to deal with any regen or anything like that, so they're just purely mechanical brakes, which is again really nice. You do get the good pedal feel through there. Just occasionally when I've been coming down the hill, I don't know whether it's the overall extra weight in the car, but they do seem to have just perhaps felt a little bit like they're struggling occasionally. Pedal feel was fine at lower speeds or under gentle applications, but seemed to go strangely hard underfoot nearer the limit. It's something that I would hope might be fixed before cars go to customers, and it's not the only area in which McLaren still has work to do before deliveries can start. Because this car is, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as McLaren is concerned, this is a production car, and it has not been fault-free today. We've had a couple of issues with this just not necessarily wanting to work as you'd expect, and the screen went blank. It didn't come back on again, but we also had a problem with the hybrid system briefly this morning, which I had to shut the car off 15 minutes, turn it back on again, and then it's been fine since. But we know there have been other problems on the launch as well, and I think it's only fair to tell you that. What McLaren is doing to give customers confidence is there's a 6-year warranty on the battery. There's also a 5-year vehicle warranty with every car, and all the servicing comes with it for the first 3 years, and that's all transferable. So the second, third, fourth, however many customers down the line for the car get that. McLaren says that the problems are largely software related, and it knows it has work to do on the customer service and reliability front. I really hope they get it right, because it would be a shame if it marred what otherwise so far seems to be a pretty cracking car. I do love how small and agile this feels. You think of supercars as being big and intimidating, but this feels like a really nice size. Particularly given this road is certainly not the widest, but I still have confidence to drive it quickly down here. And some of the broken bits of tarmac, obviously it's not like the UK in terms of a B road, but certainly the broken tarmac that we have driven over, this has dealt with it extremely well. it's another one of those cars that you can get into a lovely flow with it, but then when you get into the tighter corners, it's still playful. It has to be one of the least scary cars to oversteer, I think, I've driven in recent memory. Which is daft, really, isn't it? 680 horsepower and it feels easy. So it's fun and involving at road speeds, but how will it perform under greater duress on a circuit? Time to find out with a few laps of this place, Ascari. It is a wonderful track, this. I mean, I'm sure most of you know, but it was designed with corners from designers' favourite circuits around the world. It's certainly a lap that keeps you busy as well. It's a really tricky circuit. There's particularly corners like this where you just need to kind of sacrifice a little bit there, and then you've got a blind crest, so you need to line it up and then dive down over the crest, use the compression. A couple of corners around here where using the compression really helps. So I'm in obviously what looks like basically the same car, because it's still ember orange and we've still got the sport seats in this, but it is a different car, and this has now got a P0 Corsa tyre on it. So before we had the P0s, still 235 section at the front, 295 at the rear. We've got staggered wheel size as well, so 19s at the front and 20s at the rear. The rubber also has Pirelli's new Cyber tyre technology, which uses a widget in the casing to talk to the car so that the vehicle knows whether you have a Soto 00, 0 or Corsa fitted. This in turn gives more accurate tyre temperature and pressure readouts on the dash. Obviously I've put the car into track and track for both handling and the powertrain. Just make sure we've got some heat into the tyres, make sure the pressure's where they should be. Got the tyre pressure monitor up on the left hand side of the screen. Probably still a little cold at the rear by the looks of it. Now, the first thing to say actually is that through a big stopping zone like that, for all that I've said, this feels like a sort of updated 570S. That corner there, well, that braking zone with a 570S, the rear would have been much more mobile. This feels much more planted. We obviously haven't got any active aero in this car, but I think the overall aero balance they're saying is obviously better, and we've got the EDIF helping us as well, and it definitely feels much more secure. So if you were not necessarily used to taking a supercar on track and this was your first experience, I think this would be, well, much more enjoyable than the 570S. I like that sort of mobile rear end from a 570S under braking, but I can see how it would certainly, well, mildly terrified some people if they weren't expecting it. It really does, you again feel that hybrid punch out of the corners. Top speed is 205 miles an hour, while McLaren claims the Artura will accelerate from 0 to 62 miles an hour in 3 seconds and go on to hit 124 miles an hour in just 8.3 seconds. Something I was going to mention out on the road actually, that it's a sort of curiosity, a character trait if you like, about these hybrid performance cars, in that under sort of full throttle you tend to notice you obviously get that initial kick like there from the hybrid, from the electric motor, and then certainly under a long straight you then almost notice a very slight plateau, and then you feel the V6 kick in as well, so it's almost like a sort of double punch of acceleration. I do like that upchange sound you get. This huge banked corner around here into the braking zone. You can still kind of trail brake into the corners and unsettle the rear, which is nice. I like that, but it's much more stable if you want it to be. Big stop here. The brakes, so I have done some laps in this already, and the brakes did seem to go off quite quickly. We've obviously got carbon ceramics, so whether it's just a heat management thing, I don't know, but definitely they went off far sooner than I would expect. In the big stopping zones, it was, that was just a bit unnerving, so we had to let them cool down a bit. It wasn't that the pedal went long as such, but it sort of went very firm and then felt as though it was going long. It was essentially a more vivid and unnerving version of what I felt at times in the other car out on the road.
The other thing I felt out on the road, but obviously feel on the track even more, is that E-diff. Now that's we've got it in its dynamic setting at the moment, and you can obviously trim it with VDC as well, which is really fun. It's a new generation of VDC and it feels much smoother in the way that it kicks in. I didn't really like it that much before, but now the way you can dial it in from 1 up to 15 feels, well, it's just ace. It reminds me actually of the BMW system in the M4 and M3, which again feels really sophisticated, just in the way that its smoothness, it helps you hold a slide. It doesn't feel like it's jumping in and holding you back. It just helps you to be smooth with the slide.
And even if you turn everything off, it still feels really confidence-inspiring and manageable.
Just a nice little bit of sort of softness perhaps at the front end to give you that confidence. But it feels really nicely balanced. You do want to be aware of the new delivery with that extra boost from the hybrid system just on the way out of particularly the slower corners, just not to unsettle the car at all, unless you want to, of course. It still slides like a McLaren, but it just feels more stable in the slide, and it feels less sort of, I suppose, jumpy on the way in and out of the slide. So there we are, more refined, but also at the same time more playful.
The obvious hybrid competitor for the new £185,000 Artura is the fresh out of the box Ferrari 296 GTB. The McLaren is cheaper and weighs less, but the 830 brake horsepower Ferrari is more powerful and quicker. The Artura has 4 miles more electric range, but the 296 seemed to replenish its battery more rapidly on the go. Supercar, swings and roundabouts. It would certainly be interesting to try the two back to back, everywhere from town to countryside to track.
Hope you enjoyed that film. Let us know what you think of the Artura down in the comments below. Do you think they were right to sort of keep that styling as similar to previous McLarens, or should they go on more radical? And obviously please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you very much for everyone that's helped us reach 1 million followers, pushing on for that 2 million now, obviously. And here's a little recommendation as well, because there's a film that I did quite some time ago with the 570 GT. It's called Home Run, and I'm really quite proud of it. So yeah, we'll leave a link to that so you can go and have a watch of another McLaren film if you want to. Thank you very much though for watching, and see you next time.